Welcome, everyone, to the Jarvis talk show here. I have two things to talk about today. Uh, so, Pittsburgh made a trade with Minnesota a couple days ago that I didn't get to do. And Montreal has made a trade today with Carolina, out of all teams. So, we'll get right into it. And yeah. So, we'll start off with the interesting one. Nick Bukestad is now a part of the Minnesota Wild for a conditional pick in next year's draft. So that should be interesting. Obviously, it depends what round the pick comes in at, but for right now, Minnesota wins. It's just to get rid of cap, really, for Pittsburgh. I can see them doing a lot more in the offseason. They've already been busy. They've been, in my opinion, up until today, the busiest team out of any team when it comes to trading players this far. Obviously, Montreal tied them today with that trade. We'll get into that in a minute. But Nick Bukestad, let's just talk about him for a minute. Because there's not much to talk about when it comes to a conditional pick for next year. It's a conditional pick for next year. We'll have to get into that when we find out what the pick is and what their ceiling is. But Nick Bukestad, on a bad team like Minnesota, he's a second-line center, preferably. They have to be really bad, even worse than Minnesota, to be a first-line center. But on a good team, he's a third-line center, and he's a good one. He's physical. He can get north to 40 points. And, yeah, he's a pretty good option for third. I wouldn't put him at fourth-line center. I think he's a little too good to be on the fourth line. But a damn good third-line center, and I think Minnesota picked up a pretty good player. Just didn't really work out all that well in Pittsburgh. Obviously, he's played with Florida, I think, and now he played with Pittsburgh. Now he's moving to Minnesota. So this will be his first time in the West. Now, it's to mention the West tends to be a lot different than the East. I find the West, the games are a lot higher scoring, and I don't know if it's because the goalies aren't as good or if the players are just better in the West. But there seems to be a lot more goals. Either way, it's great for him because he'll be able to score some points. And yeah, that's what you look for. And it's a good move for Minnesota. But I'm not going to go ahead and say that they've won this trade just yet until we find out what the conditional pick is next year. Now, enough about that. That was a couple of days ago. I should have done that a couple of days ago, but I decided not to for some reason. So I'm doing it right now and today. Also, we're going to talk about today's trade. I did not see this coming, but the Montreal Canadiens have acquired Joel Edmondson from the Carolina Hurricanes for a 5th-round pick in this year's draft. That's nothing. A 5th-round pick rarely plays in the NHL, to be honest. And Joel Edmondson is a pretty good defender. I mean, he's not going to get a ton of points. Like, he's not Jeff Petrie. We can't put that on him. But what he is Ben Sherratt. we love Ben here in Montreal, and we got him for another 2 seasons. Now, I was thinking 3 years at 3.5, which is Ben's contract. But I'm not so sure. 3 years is what I would like in term, but maybe 2.5, 3 million perhaps is what we're aiming for in terms of money now, I would say. Oh, we'll definitely have to see. Mark Bergevin is good with contracts, good with trades. Over the past, I'd say 2, 3, 4 years, Mark Bergevin, in my opinion, has been one of the best general managers in the entire league. Minus the Sebastian offer sheet whole deal. Mark Bergevin's been pretty good. General Manager of the Year award kind of makes me mad because I only noticed that the three nominees, their teams are in the conference finals. That's not fair. That's not fair at all. If you, it takes more than a year to make a team good. Sometimes it takes a long time. So you tell me in 3 to 5 years from now, when Montreal is a contender, Mark Bergevin's going to win the GM of the Year award and he won't have to do anything? Now, granted, the winner actually did something and signed Pajot to that big 7-year contract. Smart business. But the guy in Tampa did jack shit. And the guy in Dallas did nothing. You gotta be kidding me. You have got to be kidding. How are those two up for General Manager of the Year? It doesn't make any sense. Does not make any sense. I think you have to look at what they do. I don't like the award because you cannot make a team good in 1 year. The general manager for Tampa, that team was already good when he got there. And all he did was bring in a couple of fourth liners. What did he fucking do? Who cares? The guy in Dallas done even less than that. And I'll give it to Lou. All the respect in the world. He deserves that award for what he did this year. He deserved the nomination, and in my opinion, he was the best. But to me, we're all willing to shit on Mark Bergevin. We're all willing to shit on Kyle Dubas. We're all willing to shit on Jim Benning. Notice how I mentioned these are all Canadian teams. They're all the general managers for Canadian teams. But we're not willing to give them their due. You gotta be kidding me. Kyle Dubas has one of the best forward cores in the entire league. Mark Bergevin has saved up so much money so that he can have enough to get Jake Allen, to get Joel Edmondson, and still have enough for, I don't know, Taylor Hall. How does that not at least get a nomination? I'm sorry. Now, do I think Kyle Dubas deserves a nomination? No. But he's not far off. I can definitely foresee more happening there in Toronto. Kyle Dubas had a rough start. But just like Mark Bergevin, Kyle's going to turn this around. The Leafs are going to be good for a long time. There's nothing more to it. I thought the Leafs would have already been a contender. But that's the growing pains of a young team. And, I know that wasn't what I was talking about, but I had to throw it out there because I thought 2/3 of nominees for General Manager of the Year was a joke. And honestly, I couldn't help it. So, is what it is.